Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our SCM, School of Christian Mysticism, meditation support group today. And greetings to everyone who is watching this recording at another time, in another place. We know you're out there, and we're so happy about that. The meditation support group, as you may know already, is a forum which meets monthly to of support, really, support for our personal meditation practice. We have the idea, belief that a meditation practice on a regular basis is very helpful. The Sufi Hazrat Naik Khan talks about, in his rather old-fashioned words, winding a clock at the beginning of the day so that it will run the rest of the day. And of course, we don't wind clocks or watches anymore, but I think we get the idea from that. So this morning, Tim, Malcolm, and I are going to have a short discussion, maybe for 15 minutes, something like that, which you'll hear on this recording, 15, 20 minutes. And then we're going to open to those other people that are here, and that will not be recorded. So if any time you'd like to join sharing in these meditation support groups live, then do get in touch with us, and we can give you a link to that. So this morning, Tim and Malcolm, we had been thinking that it would be helpful to share together how we take our meditation into our daily life. How do we keep that clock or that watch running during the day? And how do we not just develop a meditation practice and then forget it the rest of the day? I wondered, maybe one of you would like to just say something about that as an opening remark.
Okay, Joe, I'll say something. The winding the clock, I guess one of the first things I do in the morning is grind coffee. And I've taken to shaving with a cutthroat razor, which you must be careful and quite gentle when you shave. So there is a kind of mechanical beginning to my day that quotation reminds me of. Do we meditate? Should we meditate or engage in contemplative prayer at certain times in the daytime or nighttime? And if we do, how does that not become just a separated activity? You've introduced that, and so I still have a practice, even after many years of consciously engaging in contemplative prayer. It seems to be shifting at the moment from centering prayer, though I still am aware that that's going on in me. And it's more Tai Chi first thing in the morning after grinding the coffee and having the shave. So my body is engaging with earth, with cosmos with my thought and letting go of thought, with the breathing. I'm not aware that I'm using a mantra at the moment during that process, but maybe I am, I don't know. For me, it's still important, I think, to begin the day in meditation. I'm not sure that I know what it would be like not to do that now. But I don't think, if we treat it as an activity like going to the gym, or like I don't know, doing a crossword or something like that. Well, I mean that's a kind of meditation. I guess both of those can be meditation, but they can also be seen as separate activities. Okay, I've been to the gym, now, boom, I can get on with my life, my real life. Done the gym, and meditation can be like that, I guess. That we it's like if you engage in the kind of rhythm of prayer of the Anglican tradition, for example, and you pray morning prayer, and then you pray in the middle of the morning, you pray at lunchtime, you pray halfway through the afternoon, and then in the evening, and so on. That can also be mechanical, and I've done my prayers, now I've got it over in 5 minutes today, this kind of thing. But I think it's about attitude more than anything. And why do we do it? Why do we meditate? Why do we engage in centering prayer or contemplative prayer? Tai Chi, shaving with a razor, that you can't just quickly do that, and so on. Why do we do it? And I think there's the key to it being helpful to a life that is praying all the time, which the mystics in our Christian tradition and the mystics in all traditions seem to ask us to engage in prayer all the time. St. Paul, pray all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not empty words. It's not like do this particular thing all the time. It's it's not dualistic. It's not. Otherwise, there's no point. I don't think there's any point, really. You might get some peace from meditating for that 20 minutes, half an hour, 3 days, whatever it is that you engage in it. But if you're just doing it for that, it's okay. It's going to have physical and mental benefits, no doubt. But it's just another activity like going to the gym.
Thank you, Tim. So you're saying really, with Paul's words, keep praying, pray without ceasing, and don't be dualistic about it. Have your regular practice, but nevertheless, continue to bring yourself to awareness throughout the day. I think that's what I understand that you're.
And also the practice is enabling that, rather than being the end in itself. It's enabling that to continue through the day.
Yeah. Something to do with creating neural pathways, I suspect, at one level.
Maybe, yeah.
Neural, an actual building brain, which is to do with awareness. Malcolm, I'm wondering about you. What does this subject matter mean to you?
Well, I'll pick up on Tim's point of what are we doing it for. And for me, the ultimate goal, I suppose, is a state of not me that's living, but Christ that's living in me, as Paul would say, which is a not living according to my own, what I regard as my ego, but instead allowing Christ to live through me. And I have to say, I'm very far from that. But that is, as I see it, the ideal. And it's difficult, even actually, when you say that, to even know what that's like. um, but meditation or contemplative prayer, I see as a well, everything we do, everything I want to do should be a preparation for that, really, in some kind of way. If it's not, then there's no point. And contemplative prayer is one of those things that's crucial, I think. And for me, that involves reaching the source, a state of just being. And in that state, there aren't any thoughts because there's nothing to think about. And after that, the faith is that the Holy Spirit takes over, and we don't know about that. And for me, that lasts only quite a short time, but even that glimpse of eternity is hugely sustaining.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was mentioned in morning prayer in the first quote from Eckhart, actually, that glimpse of eternity.
Mm.
And how to bring this into daily life. I mean, for me, there are two practices leading on from that I learned from the Buddhists, actually, which helped to bring this towards daily life. And one of those is meditation with the eyes open. We conventionally meditate with eyes closed, but that just kind of shuts everything out because we're in a silent situation as well. But meditation with the eyes open, you're allowing sensory input. And in its most basic, that's just sitting looking at a wall as they do, and as I've practiced with them. And even then, you find yourself thinking about the texture of the wall and the colour of the wall, which is not what it's about, of course. It's that the wall is the same as you just are. It just is. And that can extend then to looking into the room, and the things in the room just are. And everything just is. And you're not building concepts or judgments onto them. And in that situation, that can be done because the room is quiet and static. And the other practice for me is walking meditation, which necessarily is done, of course, with the eyes open. And that's taking it a step further because you're moving around and things are moving in front of your eyes, and still regard them as just being there, just being. And in its simplest way, again, it's just in a safe way, like walking in a room or on your own lawn or something like that, but aware of all the things around you, but just letting them be. And that, for me, at any rate, leads on to doing that, just walking down the road. And that, for me, is a way into daily life, the bodily life. Obviously, walking is a bodily function, but it's an automatic one, so you don't have to think about it apart from crossing the road or whatever. But it's an automatic function. So walking meditation is another practice for me that helps to bring that state into daily life. That feeling of just being is something that sometimes comes really quickly, doesn't it? You're just there, kind of realise. Whereas other times, at least for me, it takes quite a long time. So that's it, really, I think.
Mm-mm. Thank you, Malcolm. Yes, those that state of just being and allowing the Holy Spirit to do the rest, and that part-way point, I think you're saying, where in walking meditation or in open eyes meditation, that's something that can help bridge into daily life. But I wondered if at the beginning, and I might have misunderstood this, I thought you said that actually daily life is a preparation for meditation. I might have misunderstood that. I had in fact been looking at it the other way around.
I don't think I said that, but they should be the same thing, shouldn't they?
It should be.
Ultimately, they should be
Yes.
the same
Yes.
thing. I think Tim was alluding to that as well, really.
Yes.
Praying always.
Praying without ceasing. Yes.
Joe, I remember Malcolm was talking about walking meditation. I remember a labyrinth at your place in the middle of Wales when you were there. So, is there something that you do to integrate, or is it just natural for you at this point?
No, I'm sure it is natural, but I am far from being natural in the best way. I think for me, kind of what I'd call daily life practice has always been more important than sitting. And although I do sit, but bringing myself back to awareness as I go through daily life, through bringing my awareness back to my breath, for example, I find personally that to be the most helpful thing, because my breath tells me what's going on in me. And that's been very useful in the last weekend with a trauma to do with my dog. And I'm sure we all have similar situations in our lives many times over. What I think in morning prayer this morning, Tim, you said something about you used the words bringing us back, returning us to a state of awareness and presence. And certainly walking meditation, I find very helpful. And resting my attention, Jesus says, if you believe in me, out of your belly will come living water. And I think it's that if you believe on me, if you can keep your attention resting on me, then you're alive. I'm alive. I think the other thing that helps me is my body. What's going on in my body? What's going on in my belly? What's going on in where have I got tension? Where am I holding? And when am I holding my breath as well? And I hold my breath in distress, or breathe out too much if I'm feeling angry. I find that being with people who are similarly orientated is, of course, very helpful, and so a community like this is really very important, that we're constantly being attuned by each other, bringing ourselves into tune, a spiritual attunement. And I find one of the most important things in praying without ceasing, which I don't manage to do, obviously, is prayer, is talking to God, even though that may be in part, in large part, I'm sure, egoic. The voice of my ego is there, but just to call out for help and know that it's being heard. So that spontaneous prayer is very important, to say thank you, to say sorry, to say please, to say are you there. I think that's really a lot of my practice every day. But I'm aware that we're in a group here bigger than ourselves, and of course normally we record, and it's just the three of us, and then that goes out before the group, and we're not normally recording with the group here.
So carry on, Joe.
Yeah, so we're sitting here now and in the group, which we are, and just opening the discussion, opening the sharing, really. It's really an important conversation about how do we bring our meditation practice into life? How do we continue in life? And I don't know whether you'd like to contribute, Jane or Lisa.
I think that's been a main part of our spiritual direction, hasn't it, Joe? How do I bring it into daily life? And I think what everybody's raised so far has been really helpful. And weirdly for me, over the past few days, I've discovered Qigong again through my friend Sarah. And it was World Qigong Day on Saturday. So her teacher, who I have joined a few times, did a free session from Glastonbury, which was lovely on Zoom. And I've found that too helpful with the body. Just being and the thing, Clara's the teacher, she's lovely. Giving yourself permission to not do these big stretches, not do these big deep breaths, because I find that very difficult, and actually just to be gentle and soft with yourself. And then when you start that way, how your body opens instead of enforcing, and your breath opens and deepens. And then there's it's called Wu Chi, sorry, like the world breath, one world, one breath is the mantra for the day. And I just found that really lovely, because I found my feet as grounding's not my best thing. I was really anchored to the floor, but with a real freedom in my body. And that took me to that place of contemplative prayer, that place I get to. And I think sometimes because I'm not the best at sleeping, so getting up, I wake up half an hour before everything. And then I'm a bit stiff, and actually to release the body a bit and then do prayer was really nice. And maybe that did actually expand the prayer, because I connected to sky, to earth, to the element. I mean, I've had a lot of freedom this week. It's been a hard week as well, but I've had the house to myself, which is wonderful in one way, but it's a double-edged sword, because I can feel the anxiety in my stomach coming. And why this should happen. So it's really helpful today, because this isn't my house. Someone's been kind enough to open their home to me, but give me a week on my own, and I become a hermit, and I love it. I like to do my practices. I still connect with my groups on Zoom, and I pop out for a walk, and that's enough. My birds, and A couple of the pigeons, I've been watching them, just the grace, their love for each other, seeing them on the fence, and they were building a nest. And I've watched the male bring a twig, one twig at a time, building his nest in the tree here. And his good lady sat in the nest. I watched her last night, and I've been popping out and giving them food. And I don't know, it's just that whole gratitude for life, and I'm feeling that flow and that surrender. And yes, how do I hold on to it without the tension and keep this while sharing a space with another person? Because I've certainly noticed when I've got an agenda to get some shopping from Tesco, which is only like a 5-minute walk, if I don't want to do it, I tense and I'm, quick, get it out of the way, cross it off my list, and then I'm all in tension and stress and tightness, so it does me no good. Whereas actually, if I just surrendered to it, okay, I'm taking half an hour to go shopping, big deal. I've got the rest of the day. Don't fight these activities that they need to be done. Whereas before, and still my default is rush, quick, get these things out of the way so I can sit and do qigong, meditate, pray, read. And weirdly, I've been led to the book of Proverbs I was studying this week. And in my Bible group here in Brightlingsea, Solomon came up. So so weird how that should come up again this morning.
Yeah. So your contemplation practice is when you can do it, and as much as you can do it, it's really, really important for you. But I think you're saying that also.
I think it's not struggling, the battle. I think it's something that Tim mentioned in the liturgy, which was lovely, about the battling between the peace and the tension. So this has been very good, very timely. I'm hoping to take some nuggets of wisdom to help me today and through the week.
Thank you, Lisa. I think on that note, we'll turn to you, Jane. I don't know if this feels a good time for you to comment.
It's as good as any, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been been really good hearing everybody else's ways of kind of integrating our contemplative walk with daily life and how we manage the tension between the two. It's not easy, is it? I mean,
No.
in the liturgy this morning, as Lisa just said, when Tim, you shared that part from Meister Eckhart, that battle between body and soul, and how the body easily can win, because we are incarnated beings in this particular realm of existence, but we are also soul. And I guess we can so easily forget that and need constant reminders. So for me, I mean, I was just reflecting really. I kind of discovered, if you like, I suppose, mystical Christianity and the mystics, the teachings of the mystics, fairly early on. But I started contemplative prayer, or centering prayer, about 28 years ago. I think I was pregnant with our third child. And I found that structure and discipline extremely essential at first, actually, to have those periods of sitting, doing the do, lighting the candle, putting your clock on, that discipline of being there. But I guess over these last, years of experiencing the inner life, of experimenting with different forms of meditation and stillness and so on. I have got rather an eclectic practice now, but I must admit I still need to start the day with a 20-minute sit. I just do. I'm very fortunate because my husband is also a meditator, and we are so grateful for that because, we sit, we'll have a cup of tea in bed in the morning. Dog's usually around on the bed, and we actually assume, good posture then in bed, and we light the candle and we put the timer on and we meditate for 20 minutes. And I find that a tremendous benefit to starting the day. I also build in second sit, usually before supper. I do that on my own, and I'm completely happy to meditate on my own as well. But I just wanted to mention that thing about meditating with somebody else. Is a gift, I think. So I do a kind of a 15-20 minutes, about 5+5 if I can, most days, which I find is an essential top-up, if you like, to center down again and bring that foundation of stillness. Two things I want to quickly mention that came up as others were talking. How do we maintain that awareness of our soul connection in the midst of daily life and all the pressures of the physical realm? And one way for me is, which I've learned actually is really helpful, is to have a seed thought, or I suppose in the old days, the old evangelical days, we'd call it a memory verse, a seed thought that reminds my physical, emotional, and mental body to return back to an awareness of soul. So it might be something like, it could be anything. It's usually a short verse. I mean, the one I'm using at the moment, for example, is, I am the love that loves me and all beings. It's just a personal thing that's been helpful. Or Christ in me, the hope of glory. The path of light shines clear ahead, whatever. Another thing for me that's really helpful is, I do live in a beautiful place. I've got dogs to walk, and so I'm out every day in nature, no matter what the weather. And I find using my body, walking, extremely helpful to ground and to be aware. But I have to make that conscious effort to stop my thinking and just be, because walking can just be like, oh well, yeah, well, like, when am I going shopping, what we're having for tea, or must do so I have to try and make a conscious effort really to just connect with the flowers, the sea, but when I do, that's amazingly grounding. And the last thing I suppose is, as you all know, you know, I having in-depth psychotherapy at the moment, and I am very, very fortunate that my therapist has a spiritual framework, you know, and modality from which she operates. And at the moment, I'm in quite a difficult, challenging place of dismantling a lot of old neural pathways that I put down as a child in order to survive, really. And she was saying, which I resonated with greatly, that silence, absolute silence, as far as we can manage within, we can't achieve it outside necessarily, but that to have periods of regular silence, where for me at the moment, a lot of material and information, you know, kind of psychic stuff, if you like, is coming up. I need to have silence inside in order to give space for it to emerge. Now, that's in a therapeutic context, but in a spiritual walk, you know, in our spiritual life context, I mean, Thomas Keating, doesn't he, talks about, you know, contemplation as being divine therapy, where when we can put our body into stillness, our emotions into rest, and our mind into stillness and rest as much as possible, then we can allow the inherent prime nature in alignment with the Christ, with the soul, to actually be present with us. And this is how I believe new neural pathways are created, eventually, you know, over time. And I think I'll shut up now. I don't know whether that's helpful to anybody else or not, but yeah. So at the moment, I am consciously building in more periods of silence, just to allow this process of healing, really, and not trying to control it, because that it you know, because if I try and control it, it's just my egoic self getting caught up again.
Thank you, Jane. I think you've raised something which seems very important to me, is that what is that sitting in silence and allowing space. There's something about that, the soul's midwifery, that if the stuff to arise, it strikes me anyway, that if stuff needs to arise, then it needs to arise, and when it's arisen at that point, then there can be that realignment. I think is, roughly speaking, what you're saying, or what I kind of connected with, certainly in my own experience. And I very much like that idea of seed thought. It's very helpful, isn't it, just to have a line of prayer, or
just have something just to kind of reorientate oneself. I mean, it could be, you know, a piece of scripture or something from, you know, the liturgy of morning prayer, or it could be something we've read, or a poem. But it's just, I find it really helpful as a, you know, like if I'm washing up or cooking or making the beds or looking after the grandkids or whatever it might be. You know, it's just I find it helpful if I'm feeling overwhelmed or yeah, just come back to that seed thought, and it seems to anchor and ground.
Yeah, it entrains the mind again.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
I mean, I also find yoga really helpful. And back to what Tim and Lisa were saying about using the body.
In some traditions, it would be the Jesus prayer, wouldn't it? That
Yes, I use that as well.
people
Yeah,
use in that way. Yes,
Yeah.
I do as well. Yeah.
Just you know, Lord Jesus Christ, and God have mercy on me.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And Maranatha and traditional Christian.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jonah. Perhaps we'd just have a freely circulating sharing now.
Listening to Jane and Lisa, what you speak about in therapy, it's a really powerful description of life, of this whole experience of life in this way, in embodied soul. Yeah, that's what we. Maybe we can't answer why do we engage in contemplative prayer really succinctly in any way, but that peace that you speak of, the silence, enabling that and entering the space in your walking and in your prayer times and in all of it. Lisa, I was thinking about something that I learned from Thich Nhat Hanh in shopping. I hated shopping, absolutely hated it. And those kind of functiony things that we do, they are opportunities for meditation. Don't have to ignore anyone or anything at all, but there's so much, like Qigong you spoke about. There's a practice where you can just pour the weight from one side of the body into the other side, but nobody knows where you're holding your weight, and that's necessary in Tai Chi, for example. But these things just come into play in those situations, and now I don't hate shopping. I love it. I love it. It's an opportunity for peace. It's wonderful. But I've forgotten what it's like to live in a city. I've got to admit that. I've lived in cities, and I think I found peace. I must have, otherwise I wouldn't have survived them. But you know, that's a different thing, isn't it? With the noise all the time and all the time. I might try to find an opportunity to practice that again. But it's all opportunity for integration, I think. And you've got to stand in a queue in the shop. There's nothing you can do about it. You might as well enjoy it, isn't it? You might as well enjoy it. Yeah.
I think I can do that quite. Those kind of things I can do. The waiting, because that's all great. It's like God's given me permission to stop. I think it's the I don't know if I can even describe it. It's how I feel now that I've come to realise I don't think there would never be enough time. Just me and God, just me and spirit, and I haven't locked myself in the house all week. I've still gone for a walk. I've sat over the community garden. I have engaged a little bit with people, and it's just nice. I like the silence. I like the stillness. And is that being selfish? I don't know. I struggle. I did a group I belong to in America, Children Infinity. We did a nice workshop yesterday, and about being a light worker, and that there comes a point when they called it the law of square, where just one additional person to the group energy actually doubles it. They've proved it kind of quantumly. So there comes that point when you need to be with others, because no matter how much you think you can help one person at a time, the group collective is stronger. So I'm trying to bring that into my living practice, as it were. Yeah.
Yeah, a real challenge.
And then I think, well, what's the point? Why let me discover the deep peace and silence? And I do actively seek those points during the day because I need them. But yeah, maybe it's that thing where I'm realizing it's never enough. I don't know if other people feel that way.
A real challenge being in the world, isn't it? As a soul.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think listening to what Lisa's sharing is really really reminded me of a phase in my life where I was really busy. I had loads and loads of commitments. The kids were young. I was working part-time, and I had this inner craving all the time, to be more contemplative, but life seemed to be pulling me in the other direction. And the way I managed it was to build in regular retreats at a spiritual community, for example. But for a while as well, I walked alongside a monastic community. It was a religious community of Cistercian nuns, actually. And what am I trying to say about this? I didn't join the community. I was a contemplative in life.
Yeah.
But it was almost like an oblate, but because they were Catholic and I was Anglican, and that wasn't possible. But it made me realize, that actually to be provided for in a spiritual contemplative community is a great gift because you are kind of set free and released from the demands of life, and it made me think, well, can I only be completely contemplative if I was a monastic? But no, my call in this life, is to be a contemplative within daily life. So I've got to find a way of doing it. I sometimes think the monastics, dare I say it, have it easier. I mean, I'm sure they don't, because they've got lots of other things to deal with. But, to be in that community environment where you are part and parcel of this focus that is all about contemplation and regular, reminders throughout the day. So yeah, I decided to not do that anymore, really. I kind of left the community a bit, and decided that it was my call to live in what I am in as a
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes there is a need to. I mean, now I'm retired, it's a completely different ball game because I have got that space. But when I was working, it was, you know, it had to be a conscious decision to say, right, I'm having a retreat, or I'm having,
Yeah.
3 days away, or whatever it is. Yeah. I don't know if that's possible for you, Lisa, or you probably do it already.
Thank you. Now that is the struggle between, am I being pulled to go in community, or am I called to be in life? But the thing is, over the last year, my life's really opened up here in the community, on the church community I belong to. So I kind of take that as a sign that I'm supposed to be in life, as it were, as a contemplative. But
Which is a
I,
hard
I,
path,
I,
isn't it?
I think I kind of resonate with everything you just said. I sense it would be easier to be in community, but of course I haven't lived it. And of course there'll be different challenges. It's not easier or better, it's just different, isn't it? But I kind of sense at this point in my life that I'm not to go in, but maybe at some point I will.
Mm,
But I do love staying in retreat houses, and
mm,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just the whole way the rhythm's set up for you, that it's always directed back. I mean, I think I'm pretty good at doing that myself, but it makes it a lot freer and easier, that the whole way of the day is that's what you do. It's lovely.
mm,
Yeah.
Well, we're coming near to the end of our discussion now. And I think it's been a really deep and useful, very useful discussion, posing various really helpful ideas, and also throwing up our kind of common challenges in how to live contemplative life throughout life. The Sufi Hazrat Naq Khan says that there are souls and angels when we're before life, outside, as our angelic beings, our soul. So that we're queuing up to incarnate, because this is the place where we have a chance to evolve most. And that's just an interesting thought, that this struggle is evolutionary if we let it be, I think. Would there, I'll ask us each just to say some short comment that we're each ending up with in this conversation. But also the question in my mind is how, and this is not a question for us to answer now, I think, but how could the School of Christian Mysticism actually be more supportive in this really challenging endeavor to live a contemplative life? So that's a question I'm left with, but I wonder, maybe go around and just say just a comment of where we're left as we draw to a close today.
That tension again between community and being in the world, and maybe surrendering. It might be my will to want to go in community, but it might not be the best. And I surrender my will to God's will. So whatever will happen will be for the best at the right time.
Thank you, Lisa. Malcolm.
I always think that monastics it's a group of people thrown together that you wouldn't necessarily choose to be with, and who you can't walk away from if they're really irritating. And it must actually be quite a difficult life, I think. So I'm quite pleased to be in the secular world, because that's right for me now, I'm sure. Like all the rest of you, I've thought about a monastic life, and I don't think I could do it.
Thank you, Malcolm.
You asked what the SCM could do. This is me being really selfish. Can't you start a community where we can all live there?
Thank you, Lisa. Jane, you were about to speak.
I was going to say that I can't sum things up in any like sentence. So just I really appreciate everything that has been shared here today. You know, we can think stuff and we can walk alone, but it really is community that that unfolds what's in us, and you know, there just aren't words for it. It's just I just want to say thank you for a wonderful discussion and sharing.
Thank you, Tim.
I just felt I needed to flag up. Some of you may already know, but on June the 8th, which is a Thursday, there are a group of male and female Buddhist monastics coming to near me, to Pembrokeshire, from Plum Village, which was Thich Nhat Hanh's place, and they're leading a day on mindfulness. And I wasn't sure how widely this had been circulated or advertised.
I haven't heard of it.
Right. What I can do is I can send out on email to SCM. I mean, I'm not even sure I've got, well, no, of course, Malcolm's email address will be on the SCM, won't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
If I send the information out, I mean, obviously lots of people from here are going, but it's being held in the most beautiful, beautiful roundhouse that's been handmade. And it can take, you know, many, many, many people. It's only a tenner, you know, it's £10 for the day. And I was just thinking, if anybody from SCM wanted to come, it would be one way of actually meeting physically in community as well.
It would, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but it may not be everybody's cup of tea. But if I send out the link to you, then
Yes.
Joe, Tim, and Malcolm, and then you can see whether you want to spread it further afield or whatever.
Sure.
What was the date, Jane, again?
It was June the 8th, which is a Thursday, and it's Plum Village, basically, leading a day on mindfulness. So, you know, for anybody who resonates with Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings, I'm sure it will be amazing. And it's in the most beautiful environmental space. So that's something, but it's a trek.
Yeah.
We have got an annex and a spare room. An annex which sleeps potentially two, ideally one, and a spare room with a double bed. So I mean, if anybody wanted to come and couldn't get back in time or whatever, you know, that's a possibility.
Thank you.
But no pressure. I mean, I don't know why I even raised it, but I just felt it was right. You know, got a nudge to do that. So yeah.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Jane.
Well, I think so. Yeah, thank you all very much for sharing. We're still recording. It's been a most interesting and deep discussion, and humbling as well. Really humbling.
Yeah.
Human endeavor. So thank you very much, and we meet again for this group in a month. And if you just hang on, we'll just make a decision about the recording, I think, when you turn it off, Tim.